So
Should we leave it or we are taking it off?
I think we can leave it to the phone. Sit around like this. It's okay that we. Hello, welcome. You met with Anna. Yeah. So we can sit like in a circle, and then we have also microphone that we can pass around. Yeah. And then. And if you're take off mask if you want, but I'm fine with this. So Anna, where should we sit?
Can I do that?
Yes, yes.
But so one microphone, two microphones.
I think we will just have to.
We will share, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because this is not long.
Okay. So
Only
we'll
work,
just here. And then one.
We only work wait.
And,
If she stays over there, she's not gonna see.
oh yeah, so Christian's gonna log in from there, so we sit around. Yeah. And
Can I move this from the side so
yes,
it's
yes.
not in the middle?
Yeah. Also, some here, some there, behind the window.
Very nice. Yeah.
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 The Zoom call? Yes.
We have 여기를 온라인으로 볼 수 있어요. 뭐요? 네.
I need the address as
No,
well.
I mean 이거 이 동영상 돌아가는 거.
여기에 줌이 보이는 거죠?
아니
여기요?
이게 없어지잖아요.
네.
그러니까 없어지는 거를 여기다가 왜냐면 온라인 얘기를 하려면
아. Wait, so she wants the online here.
Yeah, of course, as always. So I need the.
but then the online playlist comes here because I need to talk about this online. So if it's possible to run this video here.
That's a computer. That's not a computer.
Oh, so this comes out from the computer.
Yes.
But this one, 은지님 이것도 와이파이로 연결하면 이게 되는데.
I do not understand. What's gonna
We
happen?
have to keep the Zoom here and then. the
Yes, of
online
course,
here,
we have
yeah.
to keep the Zoom here
Yeah.
because everything that's OBS and
Yeah.
all the stuff are
I
over
see.
there. So we have to do
Yeah.
over there. There's no other way.
So
줌 링크를 좀 보내주실 수 있나요, 다들?
You see,
Can I move the USB from here to there?
there's no USB over
Oh,
there.
okay. I see. I see.
You can connect it with your computer.
Ah,
over there.
true. Yeah, let's do that.
we already have it.
It's already.
We have
The banana in my bag.
you want something? I have.
Later. After this.
You want some water? Yeah.
They are just settling into the Airbnb.
Okay.
So tomorrow they're going to come and have a tour around everything. So a day off from being a mum.
That's good.
It's nice.
Very nice. Now I have a week off not being dad,
A whole week.
but the mom is gonna kill me.
It's funny because you realise in these moments that you have without
Wow, babies.
They're a handful.
Yeah, I bet.
Very active, you know,
Yeah.
energy.
And just starting to move around, walking.
They have been walking for like 3 months. 4 months.
God.
Yeah, they go like, we were in Lebanon in the mountains, now they're almost climbing trees.
Yeah.
Incredible. Oh, come sit here. Where is it? No, come sit here next to me. She's also drawn her beautiful Sophia on Munir. And she's chilling out.
So nice to meet her. Having spent months writing about everything.
Okay, let's start. So Anna, already is joining the discussion is part of this.
It's not part of this. I came as a guest, I've spoken up. I'm so grown up.
Please come in here so that I can talk about it. And there are more questions.
I'll say one more about Jason. You can sit up there. Yeah, that's what I.
And what I will do is get everybody to introduce themselves at the beginning.
아니면 인터넷에 띄울까요, 제가?
check PhD-Y on the back.
But anyway, they are part of the discussion, so we don't have to speak, but we should speak to each other. Are you searching for the people?
HTML?
Actually, when there is.
Yeah.
I think it's this way.
Not that way?
Set up so that they're one.
Isn't it already passing?
Chiara, quella ci vai su, prendi il mio zaino.
Okay.
Ah, because was what?
Come closer. Come in.
And bring the stool and. Yeah. Also leave this. So, yeah.
Really feels nice. I can take a seat.
It's so great to see the space activated.
Fantastic.
Yes.
All set?
Yes.
Recording in progress.
저도 물 한 잔 주세요.
Okay, well, hello everybody. Welcome to Future School at the Korean Pavilion. My name is Hannah Winston. I'm the editor of Future School, and today we are hosting within the Generative Dialogue space within the Korean Pavilion a curated collective event called Transport a Bench. And the discussion today is a response to the Bench in Venice competition, in which students were invited to respond to an open call to submit ideas is for benches that would be built within the spaces of the Biennale as kind of new communal spaces, and reusing the waste left over from the construction of each of the pavilions. And today we're going to focus specifically on one bench, which is being installed in between the Japanese pavilion and the Korean pavilion as a kind of trans-border space between the two pavilions. So I'm going to invite the participants from the Korean pavilion and the Japanese pavilion to just introduce themselves very briefly, and also give us a little bit of background about each of the pavilions and the curatorial approaches. And then we will use the bench as kind of an exploration of the commonalities between the themes between the two pavilions, which is very much in the spirit of the Curators Collective, finding commonalities between the participants from different countries. So I'm going to start by handing over to Haewon, just to introduce himself.
Thank you. My name's Haewon. We all know now by meeting through all the CC meetings. And today is actually an event for the CC, and we thought it would be a great opportunity, and it's a historic, I think, moment for the Japan Pavilion and Korean Pavilion to having this discussion in the Korean Pavilion together. I'm sure we also will visit the Japan Pavilion together, but having a discussion, really the title of Transborder Bench, but I think it's an opportunity for us to get to know what each pavilions are staging in our pavilions, and also kind of discuss this issue of collaboration and transborder, transnational, and collective, and their theme of collaborations. And really, it's a collective way of thinking, I think. And this is, I'm so moved by. Hello, Christian and you. Hi. So they're joining from Seoul, and they've been also part of the designing the space and responsible for all these wonderful, and Chris Rowe, and I don't think he's logging in, but for the graphics and so on. So this is really kind of a session where being together in this space really moves me, because I'm now experiencing the activation and how I kind of always visualize and re-visualize of occupying the space, which is what we call a interior public space in a way. So it's open to everyone, and anyone who wants to use the space for discussions, it's here. Yul and Christian, do you want to? Yes, come in. Yes, unmute. We're starting this transborder bench between Japan and Korea. Yes, and we just had an introduction.
My name is Yul. We came on together. We designed the space in which we are sitting right now. And we want to just be joining the discussion today on what it actually means to take down the boundaries between the Korean and the Japanese pavilion, and we have some thoughts that we can share later. Yes.
아니, 작게. 너무 울려.
Thanks, Christian. Could I hand over to the Japanese?
Yes. My name is Kozo Kabuki, the curator of the Japan Pavilion. I'm really glad and proud to join such a collective project. I think this Biennale is really historical because the curators make such a system. So, talking about our pavilion, our pavilion is really concerning to the concept of border. As you know, the Japan Pavilion moved the old house from Japan to Venice. And the hulls were, of course, dismantled into small pieces to ship. So we made the concept of zoning first. And we have the pavilion inside, and we have the pyramid space. And in the addition, the Japan pavilion has a garden outside. And so we thought that the inside interior space or exhibition space can use as a storage to bring the dismantled pieces. And we like to reconstruct a house into another way. So we have to make a construction work. So we decided that work should be under the pyramid, on the pyramid. So we have no exhibition building because the exhibition building is used as a storage, and these are for the workers. So we decided we will exhibit it in the garden space. In the garden space, there are the house were cut into small pieces, and the participating architects will redesign the small pieces. For example, Daisuke Motogi-san designed a roof as a bench, and so on. And the building were divided into small pieces. And generally speaking, the building has a border, strong border, which divide inside and outside. And also, the pavilion has the national pavilion has a border, which divide inside and outside, or domestic and the other areas. So, other exhibition, we think it is important to exhibit them outside. And because this indicates that we should not, or we don't have any borders, because the garden is open to everyone and no borders. So I think this bench project is very, I sympathize with it. So I'm very looking forward to discuss about borders with you today. Okay,
and then as an extension, of this discussion, because this our Japanese project, generally, not generally, naturally generated, a lot of materials, which still becomes a leftover, even after finishing, those, built pieces, and because the concept of these bringing materials is strongly tied to the how to be able to use all these kind of materials in a positive manner. So we from the beginning had an idea to do as many as projects to be able to utilize those materials, and then Kozo, as far as I know, brought this idea to everybody, and then curators collective started to have discussion. Oh, why not? Then to not only Japanese ones, but from all other countries, to gather materials, which can be utilized as a sources, of those benches, and then starts to do a competition, right? So. These, actions, starting to, let us, give up chances, to rethink, how we could, manage, these in-between, sources and in-between materials, in-between spaces, and I guess it's a very, interesting moment, how, those, of course, COVID, made us, very damaged, also, but at the same time, this term, durations, to question, okay, then how to use, these delayed, time, as a creative moment, to be able to again be question, the potential, of in-betweenness, of everything. So So that's, I think, the starting or origin, of the DCM project. So shall we start to talk about the potential?
Please introduce yourself.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm a participating architect, of the Japanese pavilion, Toshi Kiuchi, call me Toshi. And I also participated, as a jury member, of the this, Creators Collective Bench project. And so shall we start?
So one of the things I'm really interested in talking about between us, but also generally with this group, is the idea of a bench as a symbol. So a symbol of solidarity, a symbol of collectivity, and particularly at this moment in time when social distancing and all the rules and regulations that have been imposed as a result of that on all of the pavilions have been such a challenge. And I wondered if the physicality of a bench was particularly important in this moment.
I think with also Christian and Yul, they've been involved with the whole planning procedure, even putting up an installation we have up in the rooftop, which we call it CC rooftop. Anybody can come and have a restful seating moments there. But I think these issues of procedure in order to make it legitimate in the system, but also using this already existing system to then question in what different ways and how we occupy, what's the boundary, what it means to represent the nation state, and what are the potential of this, because I saw this as a positive aspects in a sense where in this format of us not coming as individual curators, but we are also bringing in our national institutions along, which is like Ministry of Culture, Art Council of Korea, and really look at it in a positive way. If we gather and if we find this interboundary and transboundary situation, this is really not about this particular architecture piece, but it is really about this correspondence and connections between also nations. So that's kind of the thing that we thought was really interesting, even through the whole process, although we don't have a bench in between, which we were originally planning, but then this whole process of discussion and really trying to intervene. What is the public? And we just had a very interesting discussion also with the British Pavilion curators, Austrian Pavilion, Peru, about this ownership and common space and so on. So it's really that one step of, in a way, challenging, but also having a different perspective on this issue. Really brings up another step for really question and to engaging in a different way. And Christian, you have gone through this whole process together, and you've also drew this, all this planning, and you're engaged in the process. Could you share your thoughts on this?
If I may, I would bring in the Creators Collective perspective a little bit. I would like to read excerpts quickly from a text that we wrote for the Creators Collective Manifesto that kind of is the framework in which we have to now actually start to see the Biennale a little bit differently and how we collaborate. So it's just 4 minutes, please bear with me. So now we are living in the Anthropocene, the man-made age, the period during which our activity has been the dominant influence on our planet, its resources, its climate, its environment, its gene pool, and its atoms. we ruled them all and decided to use our powers to knowingly and in full consciousness commit collective suicide. We know exactly what it takes to prevent this collective suicide, but we are not willing to act on it. It would require fundamental change, a new global economic system, a new global governance, a new social contract, equal distribution of resources. Well, read any book by Mr. Fuller written between 1940 and 1970, and it's laid out in great detail. But change is what we fear most. Change implies uncertainty, and we are not made to endure uncertainty. We are the rabbit in the headlights, in rigor mortis, staring at the catastrophe heading at us at full speed, thinking it won't hurt as much as change. There is no true life within a false life. As the historian Volker Weiss points out, Theodore Adorno's aphorism in Luna Moralia refers to the impossibility of setting up private happiness amid society's catastrophic developments. Adorno used it to explain how far-right movements were intertwined with capitalism and non-transparent democracy, but now it has to be widened to describe all mankind. Modern society has a tendency to impact every sphere of life. The individual cannot escape it, and thereby is willingly and unwillingly complicit. But who is we? Philippine's Tsar, Senegalese academic states it very clearly. It's an Occidental not an Anthropocene. It is about the Occident, the West. They want to share the responsibility but caused the problem. The West separated the world into nature and culture. Because they saw nature as an object with resources, they took nature into possession and altered it. They say we against them, but we should accomplish a collective we. But how do we accomplish a collective we with people who don't want that? The West, as the developed world, is put on the spot. We, as the West, have to act, have to make good, have to change without pointing fingers, without waiting for a global solution. We all know that, but we are still only whispering it. And by the way, don't get me started on a nanoscene that comes from you.
But usually all these texts a lot written by you.
2 more minutes, please. But what can we do as an individual? Accomplish the collective need, simple as that. Since the beginning of industrialization and the rise of capitalism, we have been told that every man is the architect of his own fortune. The we slowly but persistently got replaced with the I the consumer, I the social media persona, I the individualist. We have to find our we again, reclaim it, fight for it, hold the we accountable. And reclaiming requires antagonism, resistance against institutional thinking, opposition to established structure. And the Courageous Collective was born out of the circumstances of the delay. It's a humble attempt to establish a we in a system of need against them. And as a global coalition of creators and participants from more than 50 nations, it reflects on a micro scale the global need for interrelation, exchange, consensus finding. And during this journey that we had with the Courageous Collective, it became painfully clear how hard it is to establish a we. The Courageous Collective is many things. The support system is chained with information and resources, and willingly or unwillingly, a political statement. Even if you don't oppose the Biennale Foundation in any way, its existence alone is antagonistic. This challenges the status quo. And we still have to realize our political nature and start to express it. And I think what we did with the manifesto and with the bench is starting this collective need. And we have to now basically in the next step try to figure out how to collaborate and what it means for an exhibition and what it means how an exhibition is generated, whether it cannot be generated together, which then also has spatial implications. And these spatial implications are that we have to maybe start to abandon the thinking of national pavilions and start to connect them thematically, directly, but maybe even physically. And there on the bench was a really nice notion to dismantle one of these borders. And we are in desperate times, and we should take the opportunity to really push the idea to bring down these borders and change not only physical, but also change how we do exhibitions and how we communicate architecture, not as a we against them, but as a togetherness, as a collective we. Sorry for my long rambling, but I have to say it. So.
Thank you.
Thanks, Benjamin. I think you make a lot of very important points, particularly in relation to Bench, which as a symbol is kind of a space for community and activation and belonging. And you put a bench somewhere and you're inviting someone to sit down and stay, not to just walk past. And I think that is kind of there's a beautiful resonance there with the objectives of the collective, right? So it's not just that these are collaborative works between all the pavilions with this kind of generosity of spirit and this awareness of waste, but also something kind of very symbolically meaningful in terms of activation of space and finding ways to use these interstitial spaces, which I think resonates particularly with the way you've made your pavilion very porous. And I wonder if that porosity, which is reflected, I think, in the Korean pavilion with the glass walls and the open roof, is something that can be carried forward beyond the Biennale in a way. And I wondered what your thoughts on that were.
About porosity, I think what was interesting is I think utilized the material somewhat as a vehicle to start finding okay it's important to rethink but how we can start, and then again bringing okay, so everybody should have leftover, and just let's try to put it on the table, so we can start to be able to see the situation at least all the countries have similar status, and then but of course diverse and slightly different, and then in which direction we have difference, in which direction we have communal things, and how we can rearrange or relay out those resources into somewhat to be able to start conversation, and then that kind of how do I say very simple but simple idea or whatever physical thing started to give us opportunity to really how do I say in a simple manner to questions. Oh, we have borders, but that border is that meaningful or not? And in terms of materiality, this and that, could really be working together. Then why not to rather think those as a just maybe couple, or like in Japan and UAE normally is very far. But in terms of materiality, we could really collaborate to produce something. In this kind of manner of thinking, is making us easier to really articulate this how do I say infiltrate border to each other, and again looking at materials or even architecture as a device to be able to communicate. I think we found such kind of again simple but very interesting discovery this time. That was my how do I say experience that I went through this time joining this bench project. Yeah.
I know Kozo came earlier and he was running around for us, being our feet and eyes, looking at the proper siting of the bench, and he was looking at ways of bringing different resources, and we felt so resourceful, rich, that we can always call up someone who's on site, who's willing to also support and make it possible to implement, because that's what we. And then when I saw the bench, which I asked Wael today, is this the question mark bench? It wasn't. It was your insertion of a bench just by the boundary of your pavilion. And we thought even that is also so significant, because it doesn't really, it should be the design bench by the student, but then this another approach of quickly creating this beautiful bench on that particular site in contextual. And I read the kind of the different layers of meanings to this, and this whole time of not being able to be here, but then also bringing in all the teams and the materials, and could you share this whole in a short time, but your experience of this and how you feel by having some of these implemented on the sites around, and also your participation with the Russian pavilion.
That it's the point that I picked up was also again material but like somewhat like Japanese pavilion for example is a very simple system in a way we found because the house itself is like very, I would say, normal. Like you can find it everywhere in Japan almost, and it itself doesn't have a historical value, neither cultural value, but there is a very how do I say, like real life or family, and just unfolding those kind of meaning of each tiny things in the house, or like each materials in the house, and archives it and make it into data, and at the same time package, like say organizing by size or material by material, and these kind of manner, like we study to, how do I say, be able to find a way to communicate the value which is not yet there yet, in terms of again cultural and economical meaning, but just by setting up this kind of project, okay, why not to bring a house to Venice, and just by deciding this rule and then deciding this target, we started to be able to again communicate the value of it, and then that attitude, actually makes it, possible, for us to also be able to communicate, with, Russian pavilion, and then we started, to communication, right, again, because, we were completely open, and then only, like this rule is to how to, keep utilizing, those resources, which started to have a relationship, to each other, and then, try to, keep questioning, as much as possible, okay, what's the resource? What's the meaning of resource? And what, we can communicate, and, what, we can, again, re-question, of, beside, from existing, value, existing meaning. And so if we share again what we got from this project, is to again find these kind of simple vehicle or simple approach which everybody can almost like share again, and then to just run it, and then to again keep recording those kind of findings, and make it available for public, for everybody, and to share it, and to talk maybe like this, and to again keep producing like small projects, and sometimes make it into a bunch, and become a bigger project. So this kind of manner, we found it very interesting, as again potential approach that we could apply everywhere. Again, that house was I wouldn't say nothing, but almost nothing. If it was in Japan, and if we was just disassembled and thrown away, but project made it different. So that was interesting point. And again, bench project, I feel somewhat similar manner, like the resources which kept in all other countries, maybe storage, or I don't know where they were, but just by hitting this idea, we started to be able to again we questioned, okay, why not to be able to do something together.
Is it finished constructed? The question mark finished?
The formwork is ready,
Yes.
and on Monday we intend to run, because it's
Round
round
it.
earth,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
but the formwork is ready, so
You cannot wait. We are in the country, and the simple that we use only one house became the platform to work together. Yeah. In Japan, the 4 architects participated in the project, but they share this group, so they can discuss or work together by this group. In addition, we work with the artisans. We discussed with many much with artisans how they make the new furniture or new structures. So this is the why we use one house. It's our answer. And I think this concept can be expanded to more large field. For example, if we take the materiality of flow of the materials as like a markers, we can collaborate on the platform, materiality flow platform. And the bench project also suggested for us, because they are simple to use the reused materials from the pavilions. But the students can think maybe there are many students are like a collaboration to reuse the waste materials. So it is like very similar to our collaboration.
What strikes me is, particularly in response to what Christian was reading out, is that there's a kind of a generosity, a collective generosity going on within the bench project, but also within these 2 particular pavilions as well. And I wonder if that kind of sense of generosity and dare I say it, optimism, is a direct response to the fact that people couldn't come together. And I wonder if anyone wanted to speak or Christian.
Yul, Song 교수님.
It's actually a very special experience with Biennale. So even if this is
it was a shock 1 year later. But we have now friendship. Now I knew Kozo and Ray and Sophia and Vanessa. It's an amazing experience, and there is also the permission of for the bench between Korea and Japan. They also showed with his camera. We discussed the position of the bench here or here, and some options. So I think we a little bit achieved for the goal of this biennale, how we live together. So I was so, I don't know, it's a pit, is my greatest impression, but I was so happy actually to meet you guys than actually the one exhibition. It is more fruitful than just as one exhibition. This is my actually all what I want to say today. Actually, yeah.
I think we envisioned this future school in the Korean Pavilion before the COVID. So we were going to actually do the opening noon dealing with climate crisis, diaspora, and innovation, and we wanted to just announce that we're going to just from today on, it's a new day. So we're going to just change, and in a very positive way. And we have wanted to provide a generous space for public or any of the pavilions who are engaging, but also all these programs that we have here. These are issues that we cannot solve within the boundary of our region, but we also need to bring up really the assertive, the positive side of the diversity that we bring together. So not to dilute it into one core direction, but really even what we call Gyeongbang, which is the not important people or nations, or I don't know if there's such, but that we should all come together and that probably that initial platform that is not bounded by physical space, maybe everybody having one screen, also made it possible that we could build up this trust and connection and kind of start up the dialogues, which is more about listening to the other. And I'm more interested in a way, why even this Midisage, I'm more interested to look at what the other pavilions are doing rather than, because we're so, in a way, so used to our own. We've been dwelling on it so long that I'm so happy to be looking at what the others say. So this is such a great opportunity. I think if you have final questions that you want to ask, then we can maybe with that live, we're having that live, we could walk through this boundary towards the Japan Pavilion to the bench, and we can end there, so they can also have a look at yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, any more comments, final comments?
Thank you. No, not a lot to add. I think just echo.
Introduce yourself. I think that's.
Oh, sorry.
Enrique
Peña. I'm one of the curators of Brazilian Pavilion. Very, very happy to be here in person after our year in side screens, and very happy to see the fruits of all this work and the maybe seeds of conversations yet to come. But I think, given all the difficulties, I mean, this has been magnificently sort of special and as a maybe a restart or a reignition of thoughts, ideas, and collaboration. And I'll echo your words. I think we have problems that we need to solve collectively, not necessarily within certain boundaries or individuals. So I'm really excited to see this conversation taking shape, and really excited to be here as well.
Right. So let's do the walk towards the, and this will have a mic, so Kozo, you can explain what it's possible.
Sure.
인스타그램 라이브로 들어오세요.
Oh, I see. So, okay. Yeah, apparently the juries are there, but it's okay if we go.
No, better not to them.
Yeah, because
The jury is now in Jakarta.
so
Shall we come? I think it will be too crowded.
That one, associate partner.
The jury is in your pavilion.
Huh?
Walking, the jury is in your pavilion.
Yeah, you should
So maybe you should go, and then
yeah.
it's better.
Okay.
I don't think we should all go. It's too much maybe for the jury. Don't worry. Yeah. Okay. We'll catch up later. Good luck.
지금 일본관의 주얼이 와서 잠깐만 여기서 기다리고 갈게요.
really? All right. Okay, so let's stage for. We all stay here and then wait for the jury. They will come. Get some stage set.
You have banana?
Yes. 지윤님,
They
you
do.
have the you have the left the sandwiches?
아니요.
아니면 비스킷이나 이런 거 있나요? 남은 거 아까 내가 남긴 건 But we can also go up to the roof. Yeah, let's go up to the roof. Yeah, they can have a quiet look around. Can we turn this on?
Yes, the normal, the usual.
The usual, yeah.
Yeah, the
And then this has to turn back.
So the usual, yes. I'm doing while you are upstairs.
But maybe we could just leave that on.
The live feed, okay. Okay, so must come back to the region. Le TV tutto deve tornare tutto come prima ho detto. No, cioè, non lo so.
Ma infatti lo faccio apposta così.
저분 작가분인데 이해만 됐거든요.
Can I?
Yeah, maybe we can. I can connect to that.
No, she said to restore it to this usual, so actually she said,
Okay.
I'm closing the Zoom.
Yeah.
Just I'm not closing the Zoom.
네.
Adesso le vengo a prendere e me le lavo.
네. 네. 저 줌은 그냥 꺼야 될 것 같아요. 저거는 그냥 끝난 것 같아요. Awesome moderator. Yes. Alright, we're going to the roof of the Korean Pavilion. Well, have you been here before?
No, it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's really awesome.
Even getting a little
Henry,
bit blind,
yeah.
like the reflect is
how far was
still
your
really
trip?
good.
I live in New York, so
okay.
not too bad, but yeah. It's 7 hours of flying and then another couple hours to get to Venice. Yeah. How about you guys? How far is it to get here?
It took me like 30 hours plus.
Wait.
Because we couldn't take a direct flight because of we were like in the not cool country.
Oh, so you have to like squeeze in then find your way.
Yeah.
Ah, yeah,
We have
yeah.
to go to Dubai, which has like
Oh, I see.
yeah.
So you have a lot of Dubai and then,
Yeah. I work here, so.
That's excellent. Very good.
I'm meeting on the second.
That's good though. That's a good.
Estábamos antes caminando mucho con los
los anteriores zapatos y me puse.
Ah, yo pensé que ¿sabes qué? Pensé que desarrollar un cigarro. Pensé que eran Ah, ya.
¿Qué va?
La verdad es que acá se camina, no se para.
Y a ver, es un lujazo, pero
The rest of the team is coming from Brazil. I think they landed at lunchtime, so they're headed this way. I'm waiting for them to text me when they arrive. So. Yeah.
Paseo el pagano español.
Yeah, exactly. So there's it's a process. You have to take the test every day to clear it.
Estamos con que la parte
48
visual
hours.
compense lo poco que se entiende, pero...
Yeah. Ours they accepted. We had we took vaccine in New York, so it was a long conversation, but they finally accepted the certificate from the US there. So we
Evidencia, o sea, no hay ninguna foto que le da, o sea, ninguna foto
we took
video
a
que
test whatever,
sea
2 days ago to fly.
atmósfera que ha generado.
Yeah, exactly. The more it's like the Olympics, you know, test all the time. I don't know. Yeah, it's just. I think all it's lacking is just a centralized way for the testing protocols to live. So everybody shows up with like their own country test, and like, is this piece of paper any good? Exactly. Yeah. But, and then I think in Europe they have a centralized European one, so that one is good everywhere. Except UK.
No. Yeah, I have the 5.
They have their own. We came
habíamos
to London, we flew to New York, London, and we had to do paperwork for the UK, and then the paperwork for Europe. Because it's not the same anymore.
I didn't know.
The other one,
Yeah.
Annie and Chrissy took off.
How about yours? Did you have
Yeah, modern times.
Well, I missed the... We arrived so late because of that. We missed the discussion
You're going to the some point.
Yeah, I have to.
So,
I had an issue.
They signed it for her.
This church is amazing. So we opened from 3 p.m. onwards because at the beginning I thought this is part of
didn't take it about it.
the initial team were running hours. They usually cross the Atlantic, so I kept it
We were there earlier, and you won't even have it here because we have it like...
Please have some. We're gonna get some coffee if anyone wants an espresso. Or you have to move.
Where's the espresso machine?
It's coming in from there.
I just heard the word.
Yeah.
Estamos hablando del
This is how we usually have it in the...
Sí, ya me acordé. Sí lo googleé en un momento. Sí, hay que comprar un par. Sí, es el de la academia que está ahí. Sí.
They came out really nice. It's nice to see it all, like you said. The people
We're supposed to use the kitchen and cook, and we're gonna cook seaweed soup, and but there because of COVID we're not.
The protocols changed a little bit.
Yeah, so we have this tool to make tofu. We're gonna make tofu. Because one of the program is about school lunch and how to save CO2 by having a collective lunch, organic, which is being provided now. Due to COVID, it's also struggling. Yeah, okay.
Good luck, your jury is coming soon. You have to be downstairs, I think.
Dominican Republic.
And I'll see you at the Dominican Republic at 5.
Yeah. Anyway,
Guys,
if I stand
we're
there,
going to have lunch. If
Oh,
anyone
yeah.
wants to join, please feel free.
We're ready.
I could have lunch a little. Yeah. You had already?
Yes.
Yes,
with Sophia.
We'll see you guys later.
See you later.
Yeah,
Yes, you
Dominican
are fine.
Republic.
Bye bye.
So it's 3, so in an hour, so we start walking.
Yeah, because this one is
we
involving
have to
evaporator, so it's
some of
40 minutes.
So Sophia knows best like how to
To get there,
walk.
we're figuring out with the Google Maps just to see the
I
time.
just follow Sophia too.
Yeah, I usually need someone to follow.
So how long did it take you to come here?
For us, we live in New York, so it was
Oh,
not too
I
bad.
see.
New
Okay,
York,
okay.
London, Venice.
Oh, I see. Right.
I was joking, telling her that it was 2 sets of paperwork because UK is not a European Union anymore. So it's like COVID paperwork
Can we
for
borrow
UK
your
for
white
transit,
pesto?
and then COVID
Show
paperwork
it
for
to the
Europe.
Dominican Republic.
Oh yeah,
But
that's how we roll
but
these
it
days.
won't be
Yeah.
lost.
Yeah.
Oh really? Yeah.
Yeah, spare. This one in the middle.
The mosquitoes. They love us.
They love us. Good blood. Good blood.
Today, okay, someone
Good luck and sing with the birds, you know. Good luck. Really? Come on.
Oh, you're
They
so
have to
lucky.
show it at the Dominican Republic.
Oh my god. And I can't go to Dominican Republic
Yeah, it's okay, it's okay.
we came with this group from
I
the
just-
island, from Tenerife, with Captain at 4 at the pavilion. So I don't think we can make it to...
Yeah, it's okay, it's okay.
I'm sorry.
Why?
Yeah, he hasn't planned.
Oh, okay. Then I gotta wait to track.
But I think he's going to go to the
From there.
Dominican Republic and so if you do find
Are you also in the track?
So is
You're
this one?
also in the CC track?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have to tell Halo if she wants to follow me.
yes, you don't. You are not going. There's a simple version and
Are
the
you going?
version.
Can you lead?
So with the
family is complicated to
Apply right away saying
I don't know.
I can go, but if the only one we have is in the email, I understand PN, so you can use that.
Okay. I have to change my plan.
So you have
So I guess
rest
we should go.
Yes, milk
지금 이거 다 꺼도 돼요. 계속 라이브 하고 있었어요?
네네네.
Oh no. Our private discussion. What about juries and everything?
And then... Sorry, we love you. No.